Alright, there we go. This should be live. So hello, I'm not sure what the hell number I am on, but this is my next installment of a video log since we have to have somebody else here. I figured I would go ahead and interview my mother. Why don't you say hi?
Hi.
Alright, so while we have her here, I'd figure I would ask her a few questions about my childhood. I have a awesome and embarrassing picture at the same time up as the backdrop for this. It's just going to be audio though, because I just got finished biking and it's quite late at this point. So I can't really objectify it, but what was my childhood like? How was I as a child? I don't know if you can objectify it either, but...
Well, yeah, that's going to be really hard because, of course, my child was the best child ever. But I think that something that I remember most vividly about you as a kid was that you loved having everybody around. You loved building things and making things, and that's something that also goes back to my childhood as well. So like what you see in this picture here, something that I did as a kid was take a box and make something amazing out of it. And I just pulled that through for the Halloween costumes.
Just for the record, I was like the dress-up doll for like my mother and my grandmother until I was...
About 5, I think. Yeah, I have this great video, actually, of Chris in a yellow ducky raincoat, standing in the middle of our living room with a paintbrush and talking away and painting and going on in this little voice like this. And Chris's stepdad, when he first saw it, I showed it to him because I was so proud of my wonderful little boy. And he said, "Oh my God, Heidi." He said, "That kid is going to get some major swirlies as he grows up." So, yeah, he was, but he was a great kid. He loved, and still loves to have family around, which is great. So.
And building a bunch of shit.
Building lots of stuff. Legos was our thing, of course. I'm sure many of you have the same.
Legos are awesome. If you don't like Legos, then just stop watching this right now.
Yeah.
Alright. How about, like, going into school and stuff? I don't know, like, teenage years.
Teenage years? You don't want to go into the little years?
No, I mean, like, up until the teenage
because
years.
Because the little years, you know, he would, I'm sorry to say this, you asked.
I'm giving up everything doing this.
Yeah, he would cry every first day of school. He didn't want to go to school.
I remember I would cry when I went away from my grandmother's house, like, which I live in right now.
Yeah.
Like, every time, I hated, when did that change? Because I actually liked going to school at one point.
You started liking going to school. You actually liked going to school. It was that fear of the unknown thing, that first day of school, that was really rough. And in some ways, we all keep those sorts of things. But you always loved school.
Yeah. And
you particularly, in your high school years, is when you really let go of that fear of the first day. And you just totally lost it completely once you hit college. I mean, college is when you just went whole hog into the whole idea of learning thing. Yeah. And you still have it even though you have essentially graduated. Yeah, which is fabulous.
All right.
Well, so that's enough plugging for my son.
That gets in there. All right. So, potential embarrassing or funny story of me from my childhood.
Okay. Well, there are so many to choose from.
You only get one, so make it good.
Okay, well, I'm going to pass on Chris's displays and commentary throughout my sister's wedding while he was wearing a little Lord Fauntleroy outfit. And I'm going to go back to the Halloween costumes. I'm going to go back to the Halloween costumes. And up until Chris was at the stage where you see him here, he really couldn't facilitate the construction of his own outfits.
I remember a papier-mâché one. What was that?
So, papier-mâché, I have to think back on that. But what I'm thinking of are the grapes.
Yeah.
So, of course, I love making things too. And the year before this costume, and this is why we started going to boxes, is because the year before this costume, I made him into a bunch of grapes with full-sized balloons and green. Those were purple, of course, and then he had a little purple. I went all out. He had a little purple sweatsuit underneath that. Painted his sneakers green, and they had, instead of shoestrings, I used what they call what is a for a flower store.
Vase or?
No, to make flower arrangements, they have this floral, green floral.
It's like a tape almost. It's a very light tape.
That's right, but there's a wire that runs through it. So I strung his shoes with those as the laces and curled them up, and he wore a little green cray paper hat that was all that had little grape leaves and little curlicues going through it. But the problem was with this outfit, I know this took a long time to get to the point, but the problem with this outfit was that every time he moved, another balloon popped. And he's a little kid, and you know little kids, what they do when balloons pop, they either laugh, which is very unusual, or they cry. So the whole way over to nursery school, which really wasn't that far, we were just down the block, you would hear pop, pop, and I was desperately trying to blow up more balloons as all this is happening and attach them to him. And at this point, of course, we're at the nursery school, which is in a church, and he is wailing bloody murder, and I am running around after him trying to attach more balloons to this poor child. And he absolutely refused to then go out that night to go trick-or-treating. Yeah. So that's probably more embarrassing for me, really, than it is for him. But
I have like absolutely no knowledge of that.
Yeah,
I remember the pictures.
He's blocked it from his mind.
I remember the pictures of that, but I don't remember like anything at that point. Or this costume, I don't. Or the popcorn one,
you don't really
I
remember
don't.
that one?
No. I think the papier-mâché was the first one.
That was one of the first fun ones. And of course there was, what did you name him? There was your robot.
My rabbit. Oh, my robot. Yeah.
You named
the Osmo 3000. That was me one day. So yeah, I did the whole Cartman thing.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we're at college at this point. After that, Jeff pegged me like when I finally decided at this point what I wanted to do. I've gone through a lot of iterations of like what the hell I want to do with my life. At this point, I'm looking to be have have a position at a tech firm. It's a lot different from like a lot of other things I've pursued in the past. My undergraduate is in degrees in music. Like when I was a kid, was there something I wanted to be? The first thing I remember I wanted to be was a performing artist.
Right.
With
Yes.
piano.
Right.
Was
right.
there anything before that, like president, spaceship, astronaut? I don't know.
Gosh, no, I can't really remember. It was music from just about the get-go. Jeff, who is referring to him, was babysitting Chris one afternoon, and Chris was. I met Jeff when Chris was about 3, and we married when Chris was about 5. So at 3 years old, Chris was plunking away at my great-grandmother's old piano, which hadn't been tuned in like 50 years. And so it was rather surprising that Jeff could really ascertain what piece of music this was that Chris was plunking out. But he started thinking to himself, hey, wait a second. That sounds like Amazing Grace. And he said, yeah, it is Amazing Grace. So he went over to Chris and he asked Chris what the song was. Did he make it up himself, or had he heard it somewhere? He said it sounded really nice. And Chris turned around and said, yes, it's Amazing Grapes. I heard it at church yesterday. But yeah, that's he learned very early on to play by ear, and we got him into lessons as soon as we could, and he's been doing that ever since. My biggest surprise was when he came home one day. This was in high school at this point. He had a couple of great teachers. Well, every year he had like 1 or 2 really great teachers, all the way through school. But in high school, in particular, there was one history teacher that you loved, and he was a lawyer previously, and then decided that he had accomplished everything he wanted to as a lawyer, and he wanted to now teach. So Chris came home, and of course my wonderful little artist came home and said that he wanted to be a lawyer when he grew up. Well, I nearly fell on the floor with that one. That was traumatizing for me for quite some time. But yeah, I mean, now I can see it in a lot of ways, what its use is. But yeah, that was probably the most surprising for me.
Really, like
is to see you in that. You always had that business sense too, which freaked me out.
Too.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure you were, but you also had this really, really extreme business sense that freaked me out a bit, and I always thought that maybe that would go away a little bit so that the music would and the art side would take over. But I'm really glad that it didn't, because maybe you could be the first successful McKay. So
I was one of my professors who I like. I don't know if I told the story or not before. One of my professors who I really like in college. It was my last day of classes, and I was going in to hand in some test or some paper or whatever, and he came, and I'm pretty close to him, and I told him everything that was going on. He doesn't know it yet, but he's gonna be writing my recommendation. He came down. He's like, oh, congratulations on finishing. What are you gonna do now? And I said, I'm definitely looking at law school, and I talked about this before. He said, fuck. He just looked at me. And he's the coolest guy. He looked at me and he said, fuck everybody else. get a whole bunch of money, and then you could do whatever the fuck you want. Don't be one of those lawyers that goes out there and does pro bono stuff. No, you can do that afterwards. Just make some money and be happy with your life. And
to all, money is not happiness all by itself.
that was pretty funny. But yeah, I guess this is closing the end of this. Thank you for taking time at this point. I know you still don't go to bed for a little bit. I'm usually in bed before she is because I'm that guy. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.
Thanks.